going on, everybody? Hello again, and welcome back to another episode of the Welch Report with me, Jean-Luc Welch. Make some noise and clap it up, get excited wherever you are, in your car, on your job, at work, wherever the case may be. This is the hottest show in all the globe, the Welch Report, and we are going to give you all the fervor and fire that the sports world is due, as we have so much to cover in the world of boxing, and if we also have time in the world of the NBA, as so many championship fights, so much action, one of the best cards of the year, and reactions to it all, and the impending storylines that now proceed with the results of Tszyu versus Sebastian Fundora and Romero versus Isaac Cruz. We're going to cover both of those fights and much more on the show. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening once again. Please leave a like on the video, comment your thoughts and opinions, subscribe to the channel, and share the show with everybody that you know so we can build up this empire together and make this community something special. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and I can't do it without your help. So thank you so much for all the love and support thus far, because I love doing this for you all. And hey, maybe I can make a full-time gig of this whole thing. Oh yes, indeed. But it's all thanks to you and your support. But without further ado, all that stuff, all the niceties out the way, we got to cover some stuff in the world of boxing first and foremost. And since we're talking about boxing, it is time to step into the ring. That's right. Ring the bell. Let's get it started on this boxing segment of the World Tour. Round one underway, as we have to discuss the main grudge match of the night, Isaac Cruz versus Will Lebron, and this fight was an absolute banger, a legitimate barn burner. There was some deep-seated hate, some deep-seated animosity between these two. Rlly calling Isaac Cruz a chihuahua, not a pitbull, all this stuff. The silent destroyer versus the loudmouth, brash power puncher in Romero. It was a match made essentially for action, and that's exactly what it brought, as Isaac Cruz went absolutely decimated. Romero knocked that brother out, got a TKO stoppage, and what was it, the eighth round, and it was a joy to see, and I predicted he would win by KO, and exactly what I said would happen. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but hey, ladies and gentlemen, people, I know what I'm talking about. Hey, I'm on a roll when it comes to this boxing game. I have not been wrong often, and this is one of the things, thankfully, hey, just about how it went great in terms of from my vantage point. It went nearly exactly how I said it would go, because I said it was either going to be two situations. Either Rlly's going to oblige to fight Isaac Cruz in the style of infighting, or Isaac Cruz was going to force Rlly into a style of infighting. And in either of those situations, the inevitable was going to happen. He would get caught by tighter punches. See, here's the problem that I touched on with Romero in the breakdown of that fight, and it became apparent in this fight. Romero is an athletically gifted boxer, but the issue is there's no technique behind it. And it showed forth again. His jab was just based on athleticism, no real setup. He was trying to keep Isaac Cruz off of him, but the problem was he can't, because it's not an educated jab. It's only essentially a power jab that he likes to throw, but it's normally just set up other power shots. When he needs to escape pressure, that jab means nothing, especially on the head of somebody as tough and as durable as Isaac Cruz. That brother did not budge at all with any of the major punches that Rlly threw. When Rlly's power became irrelevant in this fight, it was an inevitable conclusion. We were expecting the beginning of the end, and it happened, because when Rlly can't when Rlly can't dominate with his physical gifts, which is solely what he relies on as a boxer, now he becomes a sitting duck. His defense is not great at all. It's never been great. His offense is only relegated to the power and athleticism, but no real setup. Even in the stuff with Gervonta Tank Davis, when he was, again, did respectable in that fight. Yes, he did, though he got knocked out. It was still based on athleticism more than anything. We knew, again, the raw talent showed it could give some of the best some legitimate cause for pause, like it did with Tank to some degree. But the end result still was the end result. It's so raw and so unrefined that once you get into a position where you can't utilize the main athleticism that you have at your disposal as your key to victory, Now you become a sitting duck. It happened with Tank, happened with Barrosos, and now it happened with Isaac Cruz. It's been a consistent thing. We know what Rolly Romero is now. Thankfully, he's not an elite fighter, but I'll touch on that after I continue breaking down this fight. But the point is, when we see what happened with Rolly, all of this was an inevitable conclusion due to how he fights. As opposed to how Isaac Cruz fights, who's built like a legitimate Pitbull, who is built like a stocky Tank. They call him Mini Mike Tyson when he first blew up on the scene. Understandably so, because this brother was throwing hooks left, right, and center, consistently walking Rolly Romero down, despite Rolly trying to bounce around on the outside. And with all that energy just trying to evade, instead of actually trying to throw any offense, Isaac Cruz, in terms of effective offense, Isaac Cruz can literally just go and get him into a corner and attack the body and attack the head. Sharp, stinging, damaging hook to the body. His side was starting, in terms of Rolly Romero, was starting to bruise up from the amount of attacks to the same side of his body that Isaac Cruz was throwing in terms of his hooks. It was great. Slowly but surely slowed Rolly Romero down, caught him early in the first round. And that set up that changed the entire trajectory of what this fight was going to be. Because again, when Rolly Romero gets hurt, what did I say? When Rolly feels power and he is hurt and he can't take it, and he feels there's legitimate danger, he'll pull back entirely. He'll become completely defensive. He will run scared. That's exactly what he did. He ran scared. He opted not to get offensive and catch Cruz like he said he would catch Cruz, because he understood after that first round, oh, I'm hurt. I'm hurt bad. I was hurt and stunned multiple times. It was impressive that he actually didn't go down in this fight up until the ref stoppage, and still he didn't go down, but he was laying on the ropes about to be like, oh my gosh, what is this? What whirlwind just hit me? But he ran scared because of the power of Pitbull. This is when Pitbull moved up. One of the questions was, would Isaac Cruz's power still carry and be something substantial now that he's fighting at super lightweight? And it showed true. It showed absolutely true. And it was the complete downfall of Rolly. Pitbull did everything he was supposed to do. Went, stalked, was patient, got scared he was going to gas himself out due to him being so violently offensive in the first 2 or 3 rounds. He just kept on going. When I thought he was going to potentially lay off and back off, he all of a sudden went back on offense again. The stamina on this brother is insane for the ferocity that he throws all of his punches. It was just great. And when he did get caught, he would just walk through. That high guard of Isaac Cruz is, in today's age, an elite high guard. Due to not only him being stocky and he being able to cover everything, from the crown of his head to the body, essentially. But it's because he's gotten, every fight I've seen him, he's gotten better at catching and shooting. He's gotten better at being able to, without head movement, block and just come forward with that type of pressure. Similar to what we've seen with Canelo Alvarez, which is a style that is so hard to do. Winky Wright was able to do it. And other boxers in the past were able to do it as well. But in the modern day, Isaac Cruz, Canelo, the ability to stalk and walk and catch and shoot to apply pressure instead of having to use head movement. Though we know Canelo can use both, Isaac Cruz primarily uses that block to be able to become a tank. And that's exactly what he did. We saw him use that block to be able to get on the inside versus Tank Davis in a phenomenal showing. Speaking of which, we'll get on that fight specifically as to how that fight could go now with this type of Isaac Cruz going into the table. But that's another conversation that we'll wait for now. The point of this whole thing is, first and foremost, when we're breaking down this fight, this was a fight that Rolly Romero put himself in the worst type of situation. Because with pride and outright confidence, without technique, going up against somebody who has mastered a style that is incredibly dangerous and conducive to destruction, you're not going to be okay. And that's exactly what happened. We saw him outclassed. We saw him outmuscled. like I said he would be. We saw him outmatched in terms of offensive ability and volume. We saw Rolly Romero again in a situation against the elite of the elite go and falter, go and fail. And it's a real situation that we have to ask Rolly Romero as we move on to the next topic. What is it that we had to say about Rolly now? This fight was a fight that was supposed to bounce back from the robbery that was Barroso's. This was supposed to prove, okay, are you really about that life? Can you go and against a brother who put on a better performance against Tank than you did? And didn't get knocked up, but legitimately had a great fight. Now that you are facing a guy that faced the guy that knocked you out, can you show that you are on that level still and either get him out of there or beat him? And now no. And now what I've been saying, I had a video on this a while back. Rolly Romero is not an elite fighter. Rolly Romero is not a great fighter. He's a good fighter due to athleticism. His mouth has gotten him the ticket that he's had to these big time paydays and these big time events, co-main and main. But as a talent, no, he's never been that guy. He's never been that good. He'll never be that good. Unless, if he proves me wrong, great. I'm not here for anybody's downfall. I'm here on the history of what you have done up until this point. The improvements that you've shown and that were supposed to be shown when you face off against somebody like Tank, you still haven't shown. You haven't learned anything. You're still the same one-dimensional Rolly that isn't able to set up his shots, isn't able to do anything that doesn't involve his power, isn't able to maximize his athleticism, and is not able to re-up a gameplay. He's not able to redo a gameplay. He's not able to adapt on the fly. He can't do it. His best adaptation in this fight was to clinch Isaac Cruz. That was it. And it wasn't even effective clinching to reset and put yourself in a better position that you can be offensively effective. It was simply clinching to survive the entirety of the fight. All of that length that you have on Isaac Cruz and height, you couldn't use it. Again, your defense has not improved. You leaning back on a brother who's closing in with hooks on the inside after he's already gotten the range, using a Philly shell when you can't utilize a quality Philly shell, doing that stupid catching, parrying thing in fight that you were doing in training camp. It doesn't work. It doesn't work, but you don't understand that. It's a problem that with Rolly, because you are at a plateau and you're on a slope, if we're being perfectly honest. You're not staying the same. You're consistently showing not just the same issues, but the same problems are now exacerbated even more at this point when they shouldn't be. And it's ridiculous. You should be better than this. I'm not here to, again, I may not like him in terms of, I don't outright root for him as a fighter. I'm not looking for him to fail either. We're calling a spade a spade. He could be something legitimately dangerous. He really could. But because of the mentality that he brings to fighting, he's never going to get there. He's never going to get there. He's never going to achieve what he can potentially achieve with his skill set and legitimate physical ability. It's frustrating to see, but it's deserving because it's what he's put into the sport. He is not somebody that is a great boxer. He is just like with the complaint with Ryan Garcia. Thankfully, Ryan Garcia is more along than with somebody like a Rolly Romero. Rolly Romero is so, he's got the ability to have one of the most dangerous arsenals in boxing. But the issue is he'll never maximize it because of this up here. The mental commitment to this game. And the mental commitment to adapting. He'll never get it. He'll never get it. This was your opportunity to prove. You could have lost and still showed, oh, okay, wait a minute. He's gotten better. There's something different. He could have lost, and this could have been still a completely different conversation. There's no shame in losing to Isaac Cruz. There's no shame getting knocked out to Isaac Cruz, because Isaac Cruz has proved where he can be. He's proved what he can be. You, in terms of Rlly, this was your biggest proving ground outside of Tank. And you again failed the test. You failed it before when you fought Barroso, who you should have gotten out of there. But again, Barroso is a incredibly dangerous fighter. But still, you should be able to handle your business. And you didn't. And again, you failed to do it. You failed to even show any form of adaptation to say there is hope for something better as time goes on. No longer should you be seen as the elite or in the conversation of the elite. No. Bump you down. Because there's nothing else, I don't know what, unless you come back and prove something. Your days as being a marquee type figure, I believe, are done. I think they're over. I think now we don't have to worry about that anymore. If you prove me wrong, great. But at this point in time, you're done as an elite fighter in the division. And as a major marquee in the sport of boxing, in my estimation. But as we still move on with this fight, now going on to Isaac Cruz, with this type of performance, with him being utterly insane and absolutely dominating, if we see how far could he go in this division? Could we see him potentially unify? Does he even have a shot at going undisputed? Is it possible? Well, it's a slim chance. It's a very slim chance. Due to the fact that I don't think he'll be able to beat Devin Haney and Teofimo Lopez. I don't believe it. But when it comes to him versus Subriel Matias, if they fought against each other, my word, you want to talk about an absolute war, an offensively destructive, terminating force in somebody like Subriel Matias, one of the most dangerous punchers in the entire world, going up against one of the most relentless fighters in Isaac Cruz, who's got a chin that can seemingly be is stronger than granite, seemingly unbreakable at this stage in his career. Are you kidding me? And they're both gonna go for broke with how fervently we saw Isaac Cruz throwing shots in this fight against an opponent that already had terrible defense. But even when he commits to it, he's bad. Now he's going up against somebody like Subriel Matias, who his defense is his offense. Oh my gosh, that would be insane. Ultimate power versus ultimate durability. Hooks versus straights. Arm punches versus full force body shots. It would be insane. Both got volume, both got power. Both can damage you and hurt you. Isaac Cruz got faster hands, yes, but Subriel Matias has heavier hands. And Subriel Matias could crack the chin of Isaac Cruz and break him down. Or it could be the very thing that with Subriel Matias and his not great defense, with him being so offensively centric, he could get caught with a hook that, boom, turns the whole fight around. The constant barrage of the body could actually affect Subriel Matias before the accumulated damage that we've seen him do in the past takes full hold. I would pay, the amount of money I would pay for that fight would be on par with an elite marquee fight between two of the best. That fight would be so exciting and so violent and so outright action-packed that it would be insane. But in terms of for the champions in that division, which he now is, thankfully so, Isaac Cruz's best bet to unify would be going through Subriel Matias. That is his best option to gain another belt. And the best, we'll say the best fighter to go up against and fight if you want to go and retain. The most likely to win if you faced off against another champion would be Subriel Matias. Secondly would be Teofimo Lopez, and then Devin Haney. maybe even Devin Haney might be a easier fight potentially for Isaac Cruz than Teofimo Lopez. And I say that not because Devin Haney isn't the best fighter at 140. Yes, he is. He absolutely is. But in terms of the amount of pop that he brings, while it's now legitimate with the added weight, it wouldn't be enough to take out somebody like an Isaac Cruz. With that being the case, if you're able to pressure him and get on the inside, like we saw like we saw Lomachenko do against Devin Haney, then that becomes, okay, you can get in the warehouse. If you are able to track him down and make it so that he turns to an infight, there's a real opportunity that we could see Isaac Cruz in that utterly destructive hooking style, that constant pressure and constant barrage, then wear down Devin Haney and potentially catch him. Because we know Devin Haney can be hurt. We've seen him get hurt against Jorge Linares. We've seen him get on wobbly legs against Linares. We know that this brother is susceptible to legitimate power if you get caught clean. We've seen him stunned slightly against Lomachenko. We've seen him get, not slightly, we saw him get in trouble against Lomachenko, who isn't nearly the power puncher that we have somebody like Isaac Cruz at. So there's a legitimate opportunity that Devin Haney could get caught clean with that relentless barrage if he can't stay on the outside and if he can't hurt Isaac Cruz. And now we get a situation where there's some real danger, potentially. And if he tries to fight on the back foot and can't, and has to go to war, I'm not saying he's not a better boxer. Yes, he is. But in that realm specifically, we could see Isaac Cruz break him down. That's why that could be an easier fight than somebody like like Teofimo Lopez. Because Teofimo Lopez is somebody who's got the power and the pop and the athleticism to with whatever style he chooses to fight, whether it's inside or outside, he could legitimately damage and force Isaac Cruz back, potentially. Not saying it's likely. No. I'm saying potentially. He's got the better physical traits to be able to handle somebody like an Isaac Cruz. He's got the explosiveness. He's got the hand speed. He's got the boxing ability. Yes, he does. We know when this brother gets in his zone, Gordo Lopez, he turns into a savant. We know this. We've seen it before our eyes. We know what he is capable of. And all of that with more power than any of the champions right now outside of Subriel Matias. It would be from a matchup standpoint, a tougher fight on paper. Again, you can debate whoever. I think Isaac Cruz loses both, but the point being, the easier fight or the more competitive fight might just be Devin Haney versus Isaac Cruz. It legitimately could, because of the holes and the danger that is there. It's something that can be a lot more egregious on the side of Devin Haney than it would be for somebody like Lomachenko, because of the physical makeup and matchup, and because of the seen durability of both fighters. This could be a real dilemma that could be more on the side of Teofimo to have an easier time than Devin Haney versus somebody like Isaac Cruz. But either way, all those fights will be competitive. All those fights will be bomb burgers. And the fact that somebody has to go through Isaac Cruz now to become a unified champion makes this whole division on fire. And along with Ryan Garcia fighting Devin Haney as well, this has become one of the biggest premier divisions in the sport. It epitomizes exactly what we want in the world of boxing. And it's a beautiful thing. But speaking of beautiful things, talk about beautiful violence. In our next topic, we have to talk about Tszyu versus Sebastian Fundora. And my goodness, all you can do is stand and applaud. This fight was so incredibly exciting. This was a war in the fullest sense of the word, with Sebastian Fundora getting an upset win on Tszyu to become the WBO super welterweight champion in an absolute war of one of the bloodiest and violent fights in terms of from an aesthetic standpoint that you will see in of recent. That might have been the most bloody fight I've watched in my lifetime, in terms of live, seeing it as it happens, as it unfolds. It was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. And we finally got to see the very thing that we wanted from Sebastian Fundora. He used his height. He fought like somebody who is 6'6", with a reach the same size as Usyk. He fought like somebody, finally, who is able to be a true towering inferno. This is exactly what we asked for from Sebastian Fundora. He was popping out his jab all night long. He was actively using his length to pepper Tszyu with shots all night without having to just capitulate to consistently getting on the inside, though we know that's what he loves to do. He finally learned from the Mendoza KO that he's got to utilize his attributes to the fullest if he wants to be able to achieve what he can achieve and what he dreams of achieving, which is now a reality in being a champion. Now, mind you, in this fight, as we break it down, Tszyu was winning the fight. Tszyu was winning this. He was landing the harder shots, the more effective shots. He was slipping and timing Sebastian Fundora. Tszyu was able to land straights consistently. As we know with his methodical and slow pace, it is all built on picking the perfect shot, picking the perfect time. Like I said in the breakdown. And it was doing just that. And it was working. Up until an elbow from Sebastian from the heavens. Again, it was accidental. But because of that skyscraper height, when Tszyu ducks down, he ducks into the elbow of Fundora. As Fundora is, I believe, going for a punch. And it was an accidental thing. It was a deep gash that would not stop the entirety of the fight, and it blinded Tszyu. And that one cut changed the entire makeup of the fight, which led into the war that we got to see. And it became a battle of, is Tszyu going to be able to catch and knock down and knock out Sebastian Fundora? Because as the fight kept going on, while we know that was a reality that could happen, it turned into a situation of will it happen? Because we were seeing Tszyu, because of the blood, because of not being able to see, because of the blindedness that he was experiencing. His timing was now off and his defense wasn't nearly as sharp as it was when he could see everything coming. Now it turned into he was still trying to be the methodical and precision puncher that we know him as. But that precision was now off. The calibration was gone due to the blood hindering his sight, both offensively and defensively. Straights that he was landing almost at will in the first 2 rounds now were missing widely whenever he would throw. Just off the mark. Not nearly as accurate as we know him as. Though for this fight as a whole, he was the more accurate fighter. Yes, he was. But in terms of what the normal process that we know Tszyu goes about, in terms of accumulating damage on his opponent up until he breaks him down and takes him out, it wasn't happening due to he wasn't landing at the same consistent rate. All because of that one cut. And it allowed Fundora now to utilize his volume and his length to consistently not just punch at the cut of Tszyu, but also to punch and win on the cards with the sheer volume. Brother threw 700 punches in the fight, maybe closer to 800. And it was so overwhelming. Every time Tszyu would land a clean shot, a great shot, either to the body or to the head, which he was doing, Fundora would then come back and just constantly whip it out. Just doom, consistently whipping that jab out in the face of Fundora, or of Tszyu, excuse me, and constantly putting something in front of him to occupy the airspace and to consistently score. And we saw the damage slowly accumulate, even beyond the cut. We saw the swelling. We saw the bruising on the face. Fundora has some hands that can legitimately carry some power. It ain't like Sebastian Fundora didn't fight on the inside for nothing. No, that brother couldn't knock people out. He was knocking people out. His lengthiness and range all creates leverage. Look at what he did to Lubin. Broke his face. Consistently broke him down. We've seen this before. We know what Sebastian Fundora can do. When he got knocked out against Mendoza, he was beating Mendoza. Let's not forget that. On the inside. So this is what we're saying. He carries pop and he can actively damage you. And so all of that is just better in his arsenal. But the main thing that he needed to do, which he did in this fight, was fight on the outside. And finally we got to see Fundora truly be a towering inferno instead of giving up his incredible advantage of being able to be the tallest fighter in the division. And I believe the tallest champion now at super lightweight. This is great. It is absolutely great. And this is no knock on Tszyu. It was an unforeseen circumstance that he opted to try to fight through. And he fought phenomenally. Again, it wasn't just him being bloodied up. He had Fundora swallowing blood all night long because he busted his nose with that straight right that he consistently was able to throw and land. The problem with why he lost this fight was the very thing that I said as to why he would lose this fight. If in fact we saw Fundora fight on the outside like we got to see. Broke it all down in the you can go watch the video to verify. Tszyu and his methodical nature and his precision pace can lose him the fight as much as it can win him the fight. Because if you aren't able to match the volume of somebody else and you're only relying on precision, if the volume becomes copious and overwhelms the precision and accuracy, you could still lose the fight, though you're landing more damaging shots. You're not landing enough to balance out the scales of somebody else who is constantly throwing and connecting. Because again, it wasn't like it was just a bunch of flurries and shots from Fundora that weren't landing. No, the high volume was also leading to high landing as well, though the percentage may have seemed drastically low compared to what we see Tszyu land. But he was controlling and winning the fight after that cut. Because he was consistently harping in and landing on any opening that he could with the main weapon, the jab. It was winning him today. Tszyu was hurting Fundora. Tszyu could have knocked out Fundora. Tszyu could have won this fight. Despite the cut. He could have won this fight earlier. He could have won this fight in the 5th round. Sixth round. 6 on, he could have won this fight, absolutely. Especially after we got to see the real damage on Fundora start to show and the more consistent shots from Tszyu now landing at an even higher rate despite the blood once he got somewhat recalibrated. The issue was he did not go for broke. And by go for broke, I mean he did not let go of that precision and go with now more volume. Because the very thing that was winning him the fight was losing him the fight. His precision, and he was too disciplined. Which is insane to say, he was too disciplined in this round. With the fact that he couldn't see and couldn't block and evade and slip and counter like he was doing in the early on. Now you have to rely on other things to be able to win you today. Go and up your offense. Double up on that straight right. Go to the body even more. When you can't see, force your way on the inside. You were able to beat Tszyu, or you were able to beat Fundora on the outside at first when you were boxing. When you could see. But then when that got taken away from you and you were losing the outside battle, switching gears and going in and fighting on the inside was the main way that you would have won this fight. Because you were stunning Fundora, you were catching Fundora with hard shots. When you went for broke, you were landing. But your discipline kept you from pulling the trigger as much as you should have. Your discipline kept you too grounded in a situation where you couldn't be grounded. You trying to still be as defensively oriented as you were in a situation where you were losing. And you needed to be able to start pushing back on Fundora by landing your own big shots to compensate for the amount of jabs that you just couldn't get away from. You stopped volume with volume in your own right, especially when you got popped like that. Every time you landed a big shot in terms of Tszyu, Fundora would hesitate. He would go back. He would have to regroup. Even whether it was to the body or to the head, your shots was pushing Fundora back. And the fact that you didn't commit to it, especially when somebody like Sebastian Fundora has never had great defense. He hasn't. Has never been a great defensive fighter. Has a lot of holes in his game. With all the range that he has on him. And all the body that he has at just with how he is, being 6'6". Going downstairs and going upstairs would have been your bread and butter in a more rapid succession rather than trying to consistently pick the perfect shot to try to knock him out. Tszyu, we've seen Tszyu when he goes for broke, he can get people out of there in one round. We saw it, I believe, 2 fights ago before the Brian Mendoza fight. We know this is what he can do. It was so frustrating that he didn't do it because this was still his fight to win. It was still his fight to win. Up until round 10. And after he lost, after round 10, if he didn't score a knockdown, I couldn't give it to him. And I couldn't. Because he just wasn't able to match the significant hit, to up his volume and land significant shots that would have balanced out the amount of volume that we saw Fundora land. But due to Fundora's willingness to just throw, take shots to consistently give shots, and overwhelm and control the fight with the amount of punches and length that he has, and his jab alone, he deserved it. He deserved this win. It's a phenomenal job. It was a phenomenal scrap. It was a great war. I would love to see a rematch. But most likely, we're going to have to wait. Most likely, we'll have to wait for a rematch on that fight. Because as we switch gears, one of the biggest things about this was, now that this has happened, the sweepstakes of who was going to be the next challenger for the WBO title is now apparent. Or was now apparent, rather. Would it be that Errol Spence comes back? Would it be that Terrence Crawford gets a shot at the title to go up from being undisputed champion to conquering another weight class potentially? Now, with Errol Spence getting in the ring after the fight, everybody was saying it's a done deal. Everybody was saying it's concrete. Oh, we're going to see Errol Spence, which I was so mad about because it was going to be an injustice to somebody like Terrence Crawford who beat Errol Spence to Kingdom Come. And if he moved up, he should have been the first in line for any sort of title shot. Beyond what Errol Spence, if anything, Errol Spence just needs a regular tune-up fight just to see and make sure that he is where he is in terms of, as a fighter, are you still the same? That should have been his main priority. But again, as a warrior, you go and fight for the best of the best. And they both of them, Crawford and Spence, epitomize it. So I can understand trying to put yourself in the front of the line. But now, officially, I believe the WBO has now made it mandatory for Terrence Crawford to be in line for the title at super lightweight. And now the purse bids are abundant. Bidding starts from now, I believe, until April. Michael Benson, I believe, reported it. You can go and look it up for yourself to verify. But the point being, now we got a setup where Crawford versus Fundora is now going to be the fight. And that is going to be a very intriguing matchup. Incredibly intriguing. If it indeed does get made. Because if somehow the bids don't happen and the fight doesn't get made, okay, maybe we see Spence. But as of right now, it's looking like Crawford's going to be the challenger for Fundora's WBO title. And that is going to be a tall task, literally. That's going to be insane. Because I believe Tszyu is 5'9". Crawford's 5'6", going up against 6'6". If I have my height remembering correct. That's going to be, oh my gosh. Especially now with Fundora unlocking the offensive ability to go on the outside. It's going to be, it's going to, who? It's going to be interesting on how exactly he's going to be able to win. He is, in my opinion, the second best fighter in the world behind Noah Inoue. Pound for pound, number 2 in my eyes, or tied for number 1. But when it comes to that much of a height discrepancy, talk about a chess match, talk about a puzzle. How are you going to work your way on the inside? With a significantly shorter reach and height discrepancy. It's going to be a interesting, because the power will carry. Because if he can hurt Spence and knock down Spence and KO Spence, he can hurt Sebastian Fundora. Absolutely. If Brian Mendoza can knock out Sebastian Fundora, Crawford can knock out Sebastian Fundora. Oh, it's absolutely possible. That's not what I'm questioning. How he gets there on the inside is going to be incredibly interesting. Because when you go and fight somebody that tall, leverage can be a real factor. It really can. Punching up at that height, somebody could just literally lean back and evade everything and be as safe as can be. So it's a very interesting dichotomy that somebody like Terrence Crawford is going to have to figure out. Because while he's a better fighter at this height and weight, but specifically at this height, this is an anomaly for anybody in any division. This is an anomaly. This is a true anomaly. But I still think we'll see Terrence Crawford beat him. And I think we'll see him knock him out. Yes, I do. How is he going to do it? I'm going to have to, I don't know. I know he can. I just don't know how, which is insane. But we'll break down that fight as time goes on. Yes, we will. Once it's officially announced, if it gets made, we'll break down that fight. But it's such an interesting thing. Somebody that short but that skilled going up against somebody this tall, while not nearly as skilled, the physical attributes, now that he's unlocked them to the fullest, this could be very interesting. And could be an interesting hurdle to see Terrence Crawford try to overcome. If it was Errol Spence, it would be the same thing. It's just a matter of, can you get around that height? And if you can't, this could spell a real hard night for either fighter, but specifically for Terrence Crawford. I think it's going to knock him out. I think he'll beat him. How he'll do it, I'll have to research and find out, but I'll get back with you on the breakdown of that fight. But even still, it's just an insane thing. And we could potentially see Crawford then go on a trail to become a 3-division undisputed champion at 154, which will be great. And potentially get a rematch with Errol Spence Jr. eventually, hopefully, at 154. If that fight ever happens, which again, I don't know if it will. I really don't know if it will. At this stage, I don't know if that fight's going to happen. Due to it, allegedly, it was supposed to be made of it. And now it hasn't. Understandable because of the recovery, but even still, at some point in time, if you say you're about that life, let's make it about that life. Push for the rematch or earn your shot to get a shot at the rematch. To prove that everything was that last fight wasn't you. If it indeed wasn't. I think it was. I believe it was. But still, I don't know if we'll ever see that rematch. If we do, I'm all here for it though. If we do, I'm all here for it. But with all of that being said, now that switching gears from the world of boxing into the world of the NBA. One of the biggest stories over the weekend was LeBron going nuclear for 40 points against the Brooklyn Nets, 9 of 10 from 3, tying his career high and putting this, again, all of a sudden, we're seeing the Lakers have some legitimate traction at their disposal. Of their last, 7 games? They're 6-1? I believe a couple games above 500, eking their way closer and closer into a higher seed as time goes on in this very stacked Western Conference, seemingly they figured out something. Something has changed with this Lakers squad to make them now look more and more like a real viable threat amongst this long road tenure that they've been on for this stint in the season. It is something people should start being wary about. Because again, we've seen this team before. A worse rostered team get to the Western Conference Finals. And now it's looking like things are getting, hey, there's some noise that potentially could be made here. There really is. But beyond that, beyond the overview of the season, specifically with LeBron directly, with this insane performance at this age, he was interviewed after the game and he essentially said, hey, I don't know how long I got left with this. I really don't. And we've heard this before. We've heard this again from LeBron. And you never know how long an NBA career will be. Time will tell. I'm doing my best. All this stuff. He says he wants to play with his son. All that. Yeah, we understand. But let's back up for a second. How long will we actually see LeBron in the NBA anymore? It's a legitimate question because one of the biggest stars is at the tail end of his career. And while he's still playing as if he's in his prime and has adapted his game to fit his newfound physical capabilities and is still one of the best players in the world, outplaying some of your favorites like Jason Tatum. This is a man seemingly who keeps batting back time, fighting back against the inevitable demise of a player's ability. It doesn't make sense. This isn't normal. It's not normal that we're seeing somebody just about 40 putting up 30 and 40 points seemingly on a consistent basis. Getting triple doubles at this rate, putting up 40 on 9 or 10 from 3, still being the vocal point on an offense. This shouldn't be something that is a measuring stick for everybody. It's an anomaly unlike few things I've seen in the history of sports. Even with people like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Robert Parrish, Vince Carter, others who have played at this same 21-year tenure or longer. He's averaged more than all of them combined this season. It doesn't make sense, but it's something that will not last. Now, I've been in the past berated on how long LeBron's tenure could actually be. When he was at Miami, this can't last forever. There's no way he'll keep at the same high level. When he went back to Cleveland, there's no way he'll play at the same high level. When he left Cleveland, went for Los Angeles. Okay, now the demise has started. The downward tenure of LeBron is officially going to happen. All this stuff has consistently happened to where people constantly doubt what he will be able to do, and he always proves them wrong with his individual production. We have never said anything about LeBron and his ability to produce, which is something that should not be normal at this stage in his career. We should be saying he can't do this anymore. He can't carry an offense anymore. He can't be a dominant scorer anymore. He can't. That should be the phrase that is synonymous with LeBron. But it's more so he shouldn't rather than he can't. Because this isn't normal for any human being that we've experienced in the world of sports. This isn't a common occurrence. This is stupid what we're seeing from a longevity and consistency standpoint. But I don't know how long this is going to last. If another major injury happens, we could have a problem. It could be as low as 3 years. It really could. And I say 3 because of the fact that next year, Lakers are reportedly looking to retool and go after a third superstar to go for a bigger run at a title. That's what's being reported as what could happen. So if that's the case and another injury happens, it could be 3 years that we get to see the greatness of LeBron. If it doesn't happen, though, there might not be a timetable. We could legitimately see this man play until he's 45. It's not out the question. It's no longer some insane situation. It's no longer some pipe dream that is so out there, some outlandish hot take. It's no longer that. We don't do hot takes on this show. Understand, this audience is built for entertainment, fun, and legitimate information. Teach, learn, and grow. That's what we do here on the Welch Report. In everything. Have discussions, have debates, enjoy the sport, get excited for this stuff. That's what this channel's about. I give my humble opinion on it all to help shape a viewpoint, but you make your own viewpoints on your own. You become exactly what you need to be, your own savant. And then come back here to see if you agree with what I got to say and be entertained in the process. Because this whole thing's about having fun, absolutely. But we don't do hot takes on this show. We only stick with what is factually relevant or legitimately possible. And this is legitimately possible. The window for LeBron in his championship tenure may be wider than we may perceive. And the tenure for his prime may be never ending up until he just says, I'm done. It's not hyperbolic. It's not hyperbole. It is not something that is so outlandish and stupid to say that we can see this man play until he's 45. And still at that age, potentially average still 25. Somehow still put up the same numbers. It doesn't make sense. No, it doesn't. But it's what is possible. On the downward trend, he still is able to put up, he's able to put up 23. But he could potentially be the best point guard in the league if he runs the floor and evolves his position, as we've seen him evolve countless times for whatever his team needs or for whatever he can do specifically. We know this brother is something that is special. We know he is something that is innately not a common occurrence in this game. It's not. But to have anybody say that we need to put a cap on him, constantly questioning how long he's got to go, yes, you can have speculation. Yes, there's no problem. But on the whole, what needs to be done, we sit back and appreciate it. I stopped putting a timetable on LeBron after his second championship in Miami. I stopped putting a timetable on how long his prime will be, how long his tenure will be, how long he can survive in the NBA with him being a physical player. I stopped that after his second championship in Miami. I said he'll never be. People were coming to me saying that the average knockoff for people in terms of when they start going down, 34, 35, 32, 33, if we're being perfectly honest. They brought up Shaq, they brought up Kareem, they brought up all these players. I, at that point, said, no, I don't think it's going to happen. You're downplaying what we're seeing from this brother. This is not going to be something that's going to be a flash in the pan. This prime will not end. And I'm standing by it up until he proves me wrong. I'm never, ever since then, I never went about and said that he would when the drop off would be. Because I didn't know. Because I knew I was seeing something that isn't common. Something that we may never see again. I knew I was witnessing something special. Hence, I stopped putting restraints on how special it could be. You should do the same. All of us should do the same. Appreciating the greats, appreciating basketball, and appreciating specifically what LeBron is bringing to the table. Same thing with Steph, same thing with Kevin Durant, all these people. Appreciating what they're bringing right now is the main thing that you should do. And specifically for LeBron, it needs to be a situation where no longer do you need to have that ire or that expectation of the downward spiral to happen, because it's not going to happen. It's not going to be apparent. Most likely, it's not going to be something that actually takes hold. And it's going to be, it ends when he ends. It ends when he's done. It ends when he officially says, I'm done from the game of basketball. But until then, I'm going to enjoy the ride. I don't know when the window's going to close. I don't know when the championships are going to end in terms of legitimate opportunity. But I do know one thing. I will never sit back here and go and have LeBron on a expected downward spiral. Never have that. I will never say that the pedestal that he is rightfully put on will fall from under him. up until he says I'm done. I'll never do it up until he said it happens. Because I'm not going to sit here and wait for the inevitable. I'm going to sit here and appreciate the unexpected. Because that's what this is. This whole story of LeBron is unexpected. Due to, yes, he was crowned the chosen one. He was crowned the next LeBron, or crowned the next Jordan, crowned on the likes of Bird and others, Kareem, at the age of 18, and yet still overachieved everything. Overachieved any metric that anybody put in front of him. I don't care how much you hate him or love him. You cannot put him under 2. You can't. I don't care if you have him 1 or 2. You can't put him under 2. It's impossible to put him under 2 with what he's produced and done. He has everything anybody could ask for out of a career. And has done everything we ask for every superstar that we've seen walk through the court, walk into the arena, walk into this game that we love. There's no expectation that he hasn't outmatched and overcame. There just isn't. If anything, he's overachieved to the point that many people are scared to give him a crown that he is justly due to them not wanting to let go of the nostalgia that they thought would never be reached in Michael Jordan. Again, I'm not here for the debate. I'm not here trying to debate who's better, who's worse. I have my opinion, you have yours. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying what he's done is struck a semblance of fear into holding on into the nostalgic greatness that Jordan, rightfully so, earned and deserved. The challenging of maybe my GOAT isn't the best player in the world is something that many people can't stand. Something that many people don't want to stand. I'm not going to be there. I'm not. And if somebody becomes better than LeBron in my eyes, give it to him. The whole point of this whole diatribe is essentially to make you understand that when you're watching somebody like LeBron or Steph Curry or Kevin Durant or any of these other phenomenal greats, don't put a limit and expect when the downward spiral is going to ensue, nor use your hate as a means to say, I can't wait until this ends. Because just like with Miami, in retrospect, for a lot of people, just like with Kevin Durant, in retrospect, for a lot of people, once his career starts going down. Well, just like with Steph Curry, for a lot of people, in retrospect, they will see, my gosh, we witnessed something so incredible. And I didn't have an opportunity to appreciate it. I will never put myself in that situation because I will never rob myself of enjoying the greatness and the evolution of the game and enjoying the semblances of impossibility becoming possible by these select few. I will never do that. And neither should you. Neither. Don't let your hate, don't let your ire, don't let your even indifference, and don't let your expectations knock you from being able to witness and achieve the ability to say, I was there when this person did X, Y, Z. I was there to see LeBron when he was at his best. I saw LeBron in Miami. My gosh, insane. Kevin Durant on the Warriors, as much as I didn't like the move, that brother was sensational and helped cultivate one of the most potent offenses that this world has ever seen in the NBA landscape. Almost unchallenged. It's insane. Steph Curry, saw him change the game. And as much as that dynasty ruled, I got to witness one man shift the entire mindset of an entire generation of basketball fans on the level of somebody like an Allen Iverson, which is insane. It's wild. This is what basketball is about. Appreciation of the evolution. And with LeBron, he's right now the apex pinnacle of that evolution in what a basketball player can be. There is no need to have yourself robbing the very essence of enjoyment and the very essence of witnessing history just because you want to see somebody end. You want to see the downfall finally happen. So you can say, see, I knew he couldn't last forever. That is a ridiculous statement. Let yourself lose yourself in enjoying and witnessing the game. You can still be critical. You can still be analytical. You can still pinpoint and nitpick stuff. And you should do it appropriately, mind you, not egregiously. But you can still do that. I do that all the time. I do that here. But I never let that rob me of what I'm witnessing in the whole historical context of exactly what this league is about. Don't let that be you that falls into that same trap. Appreciate LeBron and appreciate all these greats. And don't put yourself in a limiting situation where you have them expect it to fail, expect it to fall off. Just sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride that you're witnessing. Because you may not see this ride again. And I'm going to be here to enjoy every second of it. And with that being said, this has been another episode of The Welch Report with me, Jean-Luc Welch. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to this show. We still got so much more to cover. As the weeks go on, you can go back and watch the other clips on the channel of everything that we talk about, again, from basketball to boxing and everything in between. Right here on The Welch Report, we got the best show in all the globe. So again, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Leave a like on the video. Comment your thoughts and opinions. Subscribe to the channel and share the show with everybody that you know so we can keep on building up this empire together. I've been Jean-Luc Welch. Y'all have been wonderful. Peace and love. We are out of here.